Hey, it's E.B. Moss, and it's another episode of Insider Interviews, but this time we are spontaneously recording at Possible, the hot new conference in Miami, which is kind of hot right now. So we're inside, and I'm here with Peter Jones. Hello.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. We're going to talk all about what's going on at Possible, but mostly about Premion, where Peter is VP of Ad Sales, right?
Correct.
All right.
Yep.
So tell me about the top line of Premion and what your role is.
So I'm the VP of Ad Sales or Revenue, overseeing all the different business units that we have. We partner with a lot of the broadcast groups. We also look at, basically focus on the local markets. That's how we built our platform, was looking at how can we scale this into a local market so that we can bring the same type of, buying power that big national brands have, to the local mid-sized regional agencies.
And local, talking about hot, local is hot, right?
Absolutely, yeah, continue to grow. It's exciting.
And why is local having its moment sort of again? We think about back in the day when it was market by market and then everybody wanted national. Now we're kind of back to what? Local at scale in a way?
Absolutely, and I think, there's so much growth. I think we're going to eclipse 33 billion this year. It's still, plus 16 year over year, so it's very exciting, but there's also there's a ton of options. There's a ton of choices. When you think about all the different type of content that's out there, the different platforms, all the ad tech platforms that are out there, the publishers, tons of data. There's a lot of data, both first party and third party, that's being leveraged, and then measurement. I think that's one of the key things that we're going to focus on in our conversation, is just measurement and outcomes, and local is now able to leverage that to help drive their businesses.
Okay, so it's like all things to all people.
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
Sounds good. So we're here, as I mentioned, at Possible, and a lot of the talk is around ad tech and marketing, but and I know that a big topic is also CTV.
Yes.
So what are you seeing? Get it? Okay.
Got it.
In CTV advertising.
Well, it's still fragmented, okay? So there's still a lot of options, and so we're having to help advertisers, agencies, and brands navigate the space. One of the big things I've been pushing is we need the inventory, we need the data to be available to all the different advertisers and brands out there so that they can drive the best outcomes for their business and reach the right consumers. You're going to continue to see, all the big tech names are kind of like, hey, there are new ad models coming out.
Yep.
Well, we got to kind of test those, and one of the big things that I try to educate people on is try to remain agnostic. Mm-hmm. Everyone wants kind of like that key show or the key, content. But let's just look at the data and what is it telling us to do, and where do we need to place our buys? Not just go, hey, my favorite show is X. Yeah. I need to be there.
Okay, a little advertising with empathy.
Yes, I like that.
So I mentioned the heat. I love my through lines and my puns. Yep. So in today's climate, what are advertisers looking for the most out of you and in general?
I think it comes down to three things. It's inventory, it's data, and it's measurement.
Inventory, data, and measurement. Okay.
Correct. I kind of touched on the inventory. Obviously, there's a ton of publishers and platforms that are out there, so someone, the brands and agencies can get lost. Data, how are they leveraging their data? Third party, and then first party. If there's not a first-party data strategy with every brand or agency or even a local business, that needs to be kind of their priority this year, is to help build that out, to leverage that for future campaigns, and then measurement. If you're not measuring it, then how do you know what's working? And now the tools are available for every brand and every business to leverage to see how it's performing and what outcomes they're getting.
Do you get concerned with last mile or attribution or anything like that?
Yeah, I can say I'm guilty of doing that. I've been in the digital space for 20 years. I used to love that last click attribution model. There was one of the keynotes earlier. It was the CEO of Walmart. One of the first questions I was asked was about omnichannel. And that is a big thing that we're trying to educate clients on, is let's look at your omni-channel strategy. What different media are you looking at to help drive those outcomes? And then try to be agnostic. Look, if you're getting outcomes from one media or one inventory set, well, great, let's repeat that behavior. Let's find that data or find that inventory to drive that outcome for you. And then we can make data-driven decisions on what your media is, and not just limiting it to one media or one type of buy.
Well, to cite another keynote here, Gary Vaynerchuk was also talking about, the proof is the cash register ringing.
Yep.
So there's that kind of attribution too, I guess.
Absolutely there is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, so we talked about a couple of keynotes. What's inspired you about Possible thus far, and what do you wish they had more of?
Obviously, I mean, you have to say AI because I feel like that's been a lot of the talk. I still believe, even in our space, we leverage AI and ML for decision making and within our platform. I think we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg. I think it's going to be leveraged, throughout, all ad tech and especially the digital space. One cool thing I did see, I saw a demo of a AI chat ad.
Okay.
So that was kind of cool. So we're kind of seeing what's to come.
What do you mean? What's an AI chat
So
demo?
if you're in a chat, you're like saying,
not just the usual chat bot.
Yeah, like the chat bot.
Okay.
And I could be saying, hey, I'm looking for a hotel in Miami.
Yeah.
What's the best recommendation because I'm going to Possible? Well, it'll say, here's what we found online. Oh, but if you looked at this, and it'll do a sponsored type of response within the chat widget.
Oh, okay.
So that's what's to come. So it's kind of cool to see those demos.
And then we get into the whole trust and branded content, conflict and veracity, and Speaking of which, I'm going to do a little sidebar here, but you sell inventory in news as well, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Have you had pushback about brand safety or advertisers avoiding that area? How's that going for you?
And there's an advertiser or agency preference, and obviously we take that in consideration. But all the content, all the inventory that we insert our ads is going to be brand safe. We follow strict guidelines on every single.
You just got tagged platinum, right?
We did.
I did my homework.
Yes.
Okay, so that's kind of related. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I just had
Absolutely.
an aha moment.
So TAG is the trustworthy accountability group. Let's just say they're kind of like the police within the space, looking at whether it's brand safety, whether it's ad fraud is a big thing that they look at as well. And so we want to make sure that we are basically certified by them. We're taking all the measures that we can in order to ensure it's brand safe content, or that we're not allowing fraud into our supply path or how we're executing our campaigns.
And platinum, I think, is like a really, your omnichannel in your inventory as well.
Omnichannel in our approach, yes.
And that means platinum across the board in terms of Premion is a good destination for advertisers concerned with brand safety and veracity.
Absolutely. Within our DSP, all of our, there you go.
Okay.
There you go, you're getting it, yeah.
I'm learning.
Absolutely. All of our campaigns, how we execute them, no matter what type of media you're getting or what type of inventory, has to follow those guidelines in order for us to actually secure the inventory or to place the buys.
Congratulations. Wow. Okay. Premium is premium. All right. And we wanted to also, this is interesting. With consumer habits evolving, how is Premion helping marketers and brands be on or ahead of that curve?
So we're trying to follow that consumer behavior. So consumers love streaming because they have all the choices they want to stream. They have the control of what they want to subscribe to, and then it's the convenience of being able to watch what you want when you want.
Yeah.
We're just taking those attributes, convenience, choice, and control, and bringing it to the marketers, bringing it to the agencies. So now they can select the inventory, what data they're going to leverage, what type of outcome, if they're looking for like a brand lift study, or if they're looking at sales measurement and they want to see, well, how much sales, to your point earlier, what type of ROI am I seeing from it? Well, we're going to give them, those types of choices on their strategies and their tactics to leverage to make sure that they can see what those outcomes are and what their results are trying to drive.
I'm seeing a pattern here. Choice, control, safety, channels, creative. Okay, so far.
Convenience, there you go.
Convenience,
Yep.
Okay. What do you think are the biggest growth opportunities for 2025? Now that we're at Possible, what's more possible than ever?
I like the expression, outcomes over impressions.
Outcomes over impressions.
I hinted at it earlier. Everyone has their favorites they want to be in, or live sporting events. Everyone likes to be in live sports, but let's just look at what's driving the outcomes. Okay. So certain inventory will drive certain outcomes better than other inventory. So we don't want to have a preference. We just, as marketers and as brands, we should just say, I want to drive the best outcome possible. It might be a different media. It could be audio might be driving better than video, or vice versa. well, let's look at what the data says, and then we can shift impressions to meet those outcomes or to recreate those behaviors to drive a better ROI, make it more efficient.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had some company news not too long ago. Is it Octillion?
Correct.
What is that, and what was the news?
So this is almost about a year and a couple months ago, let's say February of last year.
So I'm behind the curve is what you're saying, instead of what we just talked about being ahead of the curve.
So we acquired some ad tech. So Octillion was a DSP, so we acquired the ad tech, integrated into our platform, and so leveraging that DSP to execute all of our campaigns. Obviously sourcing more inventory through the different omnichannel solutions from OLV to display, doing different tactics like audio retargeting, geofencing, things that are going to help the local advertisers take advantage of it and drive those outcomes that we're talking about.
Okay, and advertisers are definitely embracing local a lot these days.
Yes.
Any examples?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a well-known restaurant chain that's leveraging our basically.
Who shall remain nameless.
You've probably been there. But they leverage our sales transaction data off of their campaigns.
Their sales trend.
Their sales transactions.
Okay,
so
sales transactions.
So we can show them what their cost per transaction is off of our media.
Really?
And it's coming down to about $1. So for every dollar of media, they're seeing a sales transaction come through within one of their physical locations.
Okay, that's
So
like a
media
direct
well
correlation.
Spent.
Yeah.
So we know it's media well spent, and then we can use that as a baseline to test other media with the same type of measurement and attribution.
Okay.
Then you can look at, okay, well now we can build different tactics and strategies to help drive those outcomes. Or maybe we can look at seasonality, maybe we can look at time of day, maybe we can look at days of the week to help optimize the campaign. So I kind of hinted earlier about how important data is.
Yep.
That's the type of data we need to leverage to help drive better outcomes. So outcomes over impressions to kind of bring it back.
And with that case study, talk about consumption. Get it?
Yeah.
Restaurant?
Nice pun,
consumers.
Yeah. Keep them going.
So Peter, you've been around the block a little bit. Back in the day when I sold radio, we said that we would compete against the yellow pages, but you really did. I mean,
we did,
you were like
yes.
an early adopter of that kind of local selling and social selling. You were at Reach Local.
Correct.
Tell me about the early stages.
It was almost it's uncanny how it's a similar transition for businesses. Getting a new digital media, back then it was Google search and short story, but I remember when I started, this is back in 06, 07, I remember my dad telling me, so what's your contingency plan? What are you going to do when these whole Google ads don't work out?
You should have been a doctor.
Well, and so a lot of businesses were putting money in the yellow pages, and that's how they built their business. And so when Google search ads came out, and then obviously after that we were doing social ads with Facebook before Meta, and it was just helping those local businesses transition from a traditional media into the digital space. And then now, within the last, let's call it 8 to 9 years, going from another traditional media into streaming TV.
Yep.
And having those same type of conversations. So we've seen this movie before, having to shift those dollars from traditional to digital, and we're just there to help educate those advertisers and agencies on how to do it.
So you're like the perfect person for your job at Premion. I mean, you've talked about omnichannel, you've seen it all, you've done it all, but within sort of the parameters of local at scale,
Always
and
been local,
helping
correct.
advertisers to drive that kind of awareness through, the digital innovation era.
Absolutely correct. I mean,
Wow.
I had hair back then when I started, but
This is what happens to us in the business.
Yep,
Yeah.
But it was always focused on how to target the right ad in the right market to the right audience locally.
All right. Peter Jones, Premion, VP of Ad Sales. So nice to speak with you. Thanks for
pleasure.
joining.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
Like
you.
And good with the puns too. Like, way to keep them going.
You're lucky I didn't sing to you. So if you couldn't tell by the background, we are in one of the ballrooms at the Fontainebleau for Possible in Miami. And I had the opportunity to spontaneously chat with Sheila Marmon. And you are?
My name is Sheila Marmon, and I'm the founder and CEO of Mirror Digital. We help the world's most recognized brands connect with inclusive audiences on digital platforms.
How lucky am I So you've been in business for more than a dozen years.
Yeah, so we were really a pioneer in the space. The company's been around for 13 years, and we've always been helping brands think about how do you reach inclusive groups of consumers and how do you think about growth?
Yeah, and it's underrepresented audiences have always been a really good funnel for brands, and it's rarely considered frequently enough.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So when you look at just one segment of growth consumers, which are diverse audiences, this group, you frequently hear people say, oh, it's a niche.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely not a niche. It is over 43% of the U.S. population and represents $6.8 trillion in buying power. That's trillion with a T. That's larger than the GDP of any country in Europe, any country in Latin America. So it's a huge market opportunity.
Yeah, fantastic. And so you work omni-audience, but omni-channel also?
Yes, innovative channels. So not that television isn't innovative. Of course, it certainly is, but we really focus on digital channels and channels that you can target. So we have a network of publishers. We have a network of creators on social media and a network of podcasters. So we're always just leaning into what's next. So our history and legacy has been a very deep focus on multicultural audiences. So we are practitioners of really understanding the cultural nuances associated with speaking to those audiences and reaching those audiences. But we really want our brand partners to understand how to crack the code for growth.
Yeah.
And we are leaning into all growth audiences. And, as you know, a lot of that is often women. Women are driving growth around so many factors. And so thinking about that consumer group and how you speak to those audiences is equally important.
Any stats you can throw at me will wow the audience in a spontaneous interview?
Well, 80% of household purchasing decisions are made by women. So just think about what that means in terms of the power of the purse. The power of the purse is literally in a purse. And we've got to think about how to tap into those groups to help our brand partners access that and to continue to drive growth.
And do you have a case study or any examples, or can you name names or private label an example?
We've had the opportunity to work with leaders in several different verticals. So some of our top brand partners include folks like General Motors and Verizon and Helion and Amazon. Yeah. So in each of those different segments, they have a different growth challenge that they want to address. And so bringing storytelling powered by our inclusive audiences and our inclusive creators is really the secret sauce.
I love that. And, GM, I think I have to give credit to, because I think that they were one of the early automotive manufacturers who considered the size of the seats and the steering wheel and accommodating female drivers.
That's amazing. I didn't know that history, but that makes a lot of sense.
I might be lying because this is spontaneous, but pretty sure that came up in my conversation with Melissa, the CMO of Cadillac. So I'll add a link to that. And if I'm lying, I'll delete this part.
Fantastic.
And, a lot of what I like to talk about in each of my episodes of Insider Interviews is something tied to brand purpose. Now, clearly, you are a purpose-driven agency if you're creating inclusivity. But these days, we're a little bit challenged by talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's just one aspect of being purposeful. Are there any other missions that you personally or your agency gets behind, whether it's, Big Brothers, like we've been talking about here at Possible, or anything else?
So, Mirror Digital is a next generation media company where purpose is at our core. So the media that we publish, the creators that we support, the stories we tell, they all lead into making people feel seen. And that is the essence of our brand, Mirror Digital. We're going to mirror everyone and make sure everyone feels seen. So that in and of itself is our purpose and how we continue to, bring storytelling to life that is relevant for everyone.
Well, you're an incredible, I'll use that word, spontaneous speaker. Thank you.
I'm so passionate about this. This is my purpose.
Yeah, good. You had an early stage career at Time Warner, and then
absolutely.
finance side or something.
Yeah, I started my career as a tech media telecom banker, and so that's really
a tech
media telecom
banker,
investment banker. Yes. Oh. So the group was all together, and it was organized that way because everything was converging, and learning about media through the lens of technology and how technology was going to impact the entire media ecosystem was such a strong foundation. I took that to Time Warner and was able to become an operator and run a business. I was very focused on digital transformation for some of our large brands. And that was the foundation for really preparing me for entrepreneurship. So everything that I love and that I learned, looking at how technology creates what's next, thinking about audiences from an inclusive lens. Those are all things that I learned at Time Warner and skills that I honed that I've been able to bring to fruition in Mirror Digital.
Well, I was not a media telecom banker, but I will tell you, and I've never really mentioned this before, one of my very first acting roles was in a corporate video where I played a teller who was dealing with a walking, talking ATM. It literally was a big walking, talking box.
Well, here you are. So you took something
here
away.
I am.
So you took something
That's
away
right.
from it. Absolutely.
I'm at Possible. Sheila Marmon, thank you so much for speaking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a pleasure.
Thanks.
And I look forward to seeing you out on the showroom floor.
No, there's 5,200 people here. I think it's about 1,000 more than they were expecting.
Wow. So Possible takes Miami.
Yeah. Thanks, Sheila.
Thank you.
Well, I hope you got some good insider scoop from this episode of Insider Interviews with me, E.B. Moss. If you enjoyed this content, please feel free to buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Moss Appeal. If I can help you with your company's podcast, please find me at mossappeal.com. And I hope you'll follow Insider Interviews on social media and let me know if you have a question or a suggestion for a next stellar guest in media, marketing, and advertising. Speaking of stellar, my theme music was composed and performed by the incomparable Grammy-winning John Clayton. Thanks again for listening.